Hi guys. Today's reading is going to be about one of the New England colonies, and that was Massachusetts. And we started a little bit. We already know a few things about Massachusetts, specifically the Plymouth region, because if you guys remember when we talked about early settlements, Plymouth was one of the early settlements along with Jamestown and Roanoke. And if you remember from learning about Plymouth that the people who came to settle there, they were leaving England mainly because they didn't like the way that their religion was being handled by England. They wanted to separate from their church. Remember, they were called separatists. That was one of the vocabulary words that we learned. And so they were the ones who sailed over on the Mayflower to come over to not the United States, but they came over to the new country, these colonies, and started up these colonies. And so this is kind of going to continue on from there. So we're going to learn now about how these colonies grew, the settlements grew, and they formed colonies. And we're going to kind of look at how these colonies were similar and different to one another based upon where they were at in the United States, the type of people who settled there, and their similar religious beliefs. Okay, so we're going to start off with Massachusetts. So if you want to read by yourself or if you want to follow along with me, that was fine. But I'm going to be showing the text but also reading it aloud, though, for those who would just rather listen. Okay, so Massachusetts, the New England colony. You guys can see there in the picture, here we have the people, they're settling, and we see what they're looking like. But they came to Massachusetts so that they could practice their religion freely. They found the land to be rocky and the winters were cold. Still, there were many jobs available. Okay, so here it says, as you learned in Chapter 6, the Pilgrims came to Massachusetts aboard the Mayflower in 1620. So we already know that. Pilgrims were a type of Puritans who wanted to separate from the English church. All right, so now we're going to go on to our next paragraph here. Sorry, it says 10 years later, many other Puritans decided to escape mistreatment by the government in England. These Puritans formed the Massachusetts Bay Colony, and they moved to New England in 1630. They wanted to create a community that was based on their religious beliefs, and we already knew some things about, we already knew this information about the Puritans and the people who settled in Plymouth. Okay, so let's move on up here. Now we're going to look at the climate and the geography of the region. The climate and the geography of Massachusetts did not discourage the Puritans. The soil was really rocky and the winters were very cold. However, there were also vast forests and clean water. In addition, the cold winters helped to kill the insects and the germs that cause disease. Because of this, the colonists in New England often lived longer than the people in the other regions. So you can see, even though they had some negative downfalls to where they were living, there were still a lot of positives too. So there's the goods and the bads with living in Massachusetts in the New England area. Okay, we're going to keep going on. Get the next paragraph here. It says, Massachusetts offered many job opportunities. Colonists grew crops, and they raised animals on small plots of land. They cut lumber in the forests, they fished, and they built trade ships. Some colonists became skilled whalers. They used whale fat to make oil and candles. So if you think about it, when they were living in they were able to cut lumber from the forest, and they fished, built trade ships, it's because they were living so close to the ocean that they had these trades available. This whaling, obviously, because they're living close to the ocean, they were able to do that. Okay. Now the next paragraph is going to talk about the government that was found. Sorry for the shaky screen here, guys. I'm trying to adjust my camera. Now we're going to talk about the government that was found in Massachusetts. Okay, it says Massachusetts had a more democratic government than either England or other European countries. Nevertheless, only men who were members of the Puritan Church could vote in the colony's elections. Once a year, a governor and representatives from different villages were elected to govern the colony. The colony's leaders made strict laws to preserve order. So if you were a man who was also a member of the Puritan Church, then you were the only people that were allowed to vote in the elections. Okay, so they did have a governor, they had representatives, and those are the people that were allowed to govern the colony. Okay, and then they had very strict laws in order to maintain that order in that colony. Okay, so there's our information that we have about Massachusetts, thinking about the government that they had, the types of jobs that were available there, and what life was like the climate and geography for the people there, and how that impacted their daily life. Okay, we also know one of the reasons why the government was, or why the colony was formed as well. Okay, so you're going to use this information to help you answer the questions that go along with Massachusetts. So if you need to go back through and read the passage again, you can. If you want to pause the video at any point to read by yourself, you can, but it might just be easiest to listen, actually, because I couldn't fit all the text in the camera. So, all right, good luck with the questions. Again, if you need to come back and review the video, you can do that. Okay? All right, thanks, guys.